life in the Indian IT industry in 2021 and beyond, emerging trends in the industry, and how to stay competitive.
Want you to get you thinking a bit. Today, India's life expectancy is 69 years on an average. I want you to guess or imagine what was our life expectancy when India got independence in 1947. Put in the chat. Okay, so I have two answers 75. Very interesting, right? The answer is 31. 31, that's all. That means all the people, our grandparents, whomever we have seen, have all been better than the average. And imagine in 60 years, this is how far our country has come from 31 to 69. Of course, we do hear our elders say life was better that time. In fact, life wasn't, because half of them or majority of them didn't even survive, right? So while we talk about the future, it's very important to understand where we come from. And this is the progress that we have made. Now that is the positive. There is other side to it. It also means people are living longer and longer. That means when you are going out to work, you are going to see a lot more people. The competition in that sense will be more because people are going to live more and more. And then we have to plan our life for much longer. We used to plan for retirement at 60 and so on, but not anymore. You'll have to plan for a lot longer or plan things differently. So that's the context that we are in. And taking that ahead, I'll go to the next slide. This is what we will look at, keeping it very simple. Context, basic structure of the Indian IT industry. What are some of the trends without going into too much technical details so that you have enough information to go to dig deeper, and personal skills, what kind of skills you might need. So as highlighted at the beginning, what is the Indian IT industry? It's very broad, right? So it is important to give some structure to the Indian IT industry, or now as it's called the tech industry. You are probably most familiar with companies like Wipro, Infosys. Infosys has a huge setup in Mysore, so all of you are more aware. And there are many other companies. So I put a combination of companies that you will know, Wipro, Infosys, TCS, and probably companies that you may not have heard of. For example, Happiest Minds. It's a Bangalore-based company. You may not have heard of it. So it's good to go look up those companies. And then there are foreign companies. You might have heard of them. Accenture, IBM. These are companies which have a lot of employees in India. In fact, some of them have the largest employees in India. They're not Indian companies, they're not head office in India, but they have a lot of employees here. For us as professional, you can say it does not matter to an extent, right? Because these companies are an equally big opportunity. And these, let's call them IT consulting or services companies. What does it mean, services companies? So it is like at Bekadra, you will go to an architect, right? So architect is designing the house for you based on your purpose. So if you want Vastu, he will say, don't do this, do that. Or if you want sunlight, he will say, do this, do that, right? So he's offering a service to you and he's also recommending to you. Don't put this kind of foundation, put a different kind of foundation and so on, right? That is what is services. That's why these are called IT consulting or IT services companies. Then there are what are called product companies. So when you want to buy a fridge, you don't go to the company and say, design a fridge for me, right? You will go to a showroom and you will have many products and you will pick what is the most suitable product for you, and then you can customize it. The Rishka, double door Beko, all that type of customization you can do. And in the software industry, you can call them product companies. And again, there are Indian companies, and foreign companies. You might be familiar with some of them. There are not many popular Indian product companies. There is a lot of product embedded in these companies. So these companies have products. For example, Infosys has a product called Finacle, which is very, very popular. All the Indian banks and foreign banks use Infosys products. So there are products within these companies. However, exclusive product companies have listed a few. You can go look up. Foreign IT companies, for sure, you might have heard of Microsoft, SAP, and I've listed a few more that you may not know. You can go explore, but the list is long. That is the second way to look at it. The third one, which is emerging, is IT. These are not IT companies. These are normal companies like Airtel. Airtel, you all use Airtel. You know Reliance, right? These companies have their own internal IT organizations, and they are huge. They are not small. So Reliance has a huge IT office in Bombay, Airtel also. So these companies give work to the IT companies, but they themselves do a lot of work. Again, foreign, sorry, this should be Indian non-IT companies. Foreign non-IT companies, for example, Tesco. If you go to Bangalore, if you go to Whitefield, Tesco has a big office there. And that is not only now, but even 15 years back, they had a huge office. Schneider Electric, the company I work for, we have a huge office in Bangalore. Just for IT, we have 800 people in Bangalore within the Schneider Electric company. And there are other companies and so. So this is a third category. There are a lot of jargons used. So GIC is Global In-House Centers. GCC is Global Capability Centers. So you may not have to know these names, but you will come across these names, and they all mean the same. They're not different. The fourth one, which is the most interesting and more popular in the last 5-10 years, are all the big startups. Uber, Ola, Paytm, you know it, you see them in the news. So some are popular, some are probably less popular, and I put both the names. And here there are some blend. For example, Flipkart was an Indian company, now it's owned by Walmart. So it's debatable, is it Indian or foreign? But anyway, it doesn't matter to us, right? We are just trying to understand the industry structure. And lastly, hardware. Hardware, in the larger scheme of things, the ratio is very less, but it exists. We will look at it. With this in your mind, what does it mean? How fast are they growing? Because for you, what is the opportunity? From a career standpoint, you want to be on the fastest horse, or at least you want to know how the growth is. So currently, at this moment, you can say that the first two categories of companies are in a nominal growth. Of course, it is hard to generalize, but relatively, they are all growing. Undoubtedly, they're growing very well, but the pace of growth is nominal, relative. These are going through good growth because it's a new trend. We will talk about trend, but look at it as this is a new trend. The startups are fast growing, so you're probably hearing a lot of news about startups, so that they are indeed fast growing. And lastly, hardware. Hardware has been slow growth for India. As you all know, most of the manufacturing today happens in China. So growth for manufacturing, hardware manufacturing in India has been slow. However, there are very high hopes because all the state and central governments are offering a lot of benefits for manufacturers to manufacture in India. And you might have heard Wistron is started to manufacture iPhones in Karnataka. When I started my career, it was different. When I started my career, number 1 and 2 were fast growth. These ones probably existed in a very small scale. Startups were there, but very few. As you can see, probably none of these startups, maybe Zoho is an exception, but none of these startups even existed in 2000. So what has happened is over the period of time, the trend has changed. Now you are interested, of course, in the future. You have to keep a watch because the trend can change. In 10 years, this might be fast again, this might be slow, or there might be more such categories which are getting added. So keep that in mind as you go through your careers. A little bit of numbers. You may find it hard to understand millions and billions since we are more used to lakhs and crores. And it took me at least 5-6 years to get used to it. It's good for you to start early. The takeaway here for you is number is 147 billion, but the takeaway here is this 147 you see are what are exports. That means what Indian software companies are doing in India, and it is being used across the world and domestic. And as you can see, domestic has been relatively slower growth compared to exports. And that is okay because our digitization journey, our India's technology use is going to increase from now. So this space should increase. From a career opportunity standpoint, it will be interesting for you to know that 62% of what we export as software goes to US, which is not a surprise for you. You probably have many of your seniors or family in the US who have gone in the last 20-30 years. And this is evident of it. And you can see progressively it becomes lesser. Now, I encourage you to think of it in the other way around. I'll give my own example. The first time I went outside India to do any work was Japan, which is somewhere here. And I got the opportunity to go to Japan from Infosys because very few people wanted to go to Japan. Everybody wanted to go to US. So there was a big rush to go to US, and I had this opportunity waiting for me because nobody wanted to go to Japan. Right? So don't get carried away by the percentage numbers. 2% looks small, but it doesn't matter. In the context of these billions, 2% is a lot. And all we want is one opportunity. We don't want all the opportunities as a professional, right? So these numbers can represent a lot of information, but it's also important how we look at these numbers. Don't ignore the smaller percentages because they can mean big opportunities for us. India's market share in global outsourcing, that means 55% of all the software which is outsourced or sent to IT companies is done in India. It doesn't matter, Indian companies, foreign companies, whatever, right? So this number is of great pride, and the reason we've enjoyed this opportunity in the last 30 years is because of this, and it will continue to grow. So next we'll focus on trends. Before that, I want to highlight that trends are very important for our success. Why? Try swimming in a river against the flow of water. It's almost impossible, right? If you swim along the flow of water, it's much easier, right? Go to Google Flights or go to any search engine, search for a flight from Bangalore to US or Delhi to US. Look at the flight time. It will say, let's say 24 hours. Then look at the same flight from US to back to Delhi or Bangalore. It's the same flight, it's the same route, but the time taken could be 20 or 28. It's not the same, right? Distance is same, but why is one way takes longer time than the other? That is because of what is called tailwind. When the flight is flying in one direction, the air also is blowing in the same direction. Hence, the time taken for the flight is shorter. But in the opposite direction, the plane is flying against the wind, and that's called a headwind. And that is why it takes longer. Right? It's not 1 hour, it's almost close to 10 to 20% of the time. So that is an example of a trend. So if you go along the trend, you will get a very strong tailwind. And that is why trends are important. Now, when you talk to your friends, you will talk about, for instance, TikTok is popular, or few years back we would have said Facebook is popular, or even 10-15 years back there used to be a social network called Orkut. That is when we started using first in India. We talk of these Facebook, TikTok, Orkut. Underlying all these discussions, there is a trend. Now, you can call them fads. Under the fad, there is a trend. Now, it doesn't matter what name you use, but underlying trend, if you can identify the underlying trend, you have a big opportunity. So when you discuss with your friends, you will discuss fads. But if you can think or even discuss with your friends on what's the underlying trend, you will benefit a lot. Trends go on for a long, long time. For example, online shopping, right? Today you might buy in Flipkart, tomorrow you might buy in a different website. That doesn't matter, right? But what is the underlying trend? That we are buying more and more online. And probably after COVID, lockdown, whatever has happened in 2020, that trend will accelerate. So fads will come and go, companies will come and go, but the trend is here to stay. And if you can understand the trend and build on top of it, there is a lot of opportunity for you. There's a reason I put this screenshot, and we will talk about it later. So we'll talk about some specific trends. We will not go into too much technical detail, but my idea is to teach you how to handle these trends, because to go into each trend is a dedicated session in itself. So let's look at how to handle trends. So as we've already seen, trends give us very strong tailwinds, such as swimming in the river or the plane flying. The same concept applies. Technology trends, there are many, many technology trends. You are already experiencing it. You all probably have a phone, the Zoom we are using. Maybe a few years back, it wouldn't have been possible if I had not come to your college in Mysore, though I would have loved to. But today we are able to do these over Zoom. So we are seeing plenty of technology trends, and they will continue. And they're very important because, as we already saw, trends create opportunities. We'll talk next about learning and so on, but it's important that you have an idea of these technology trends. But what is more interesting is there are a lot of behavioral trends which are fueled by technology. And for example, this session itself is a behavioral change, right? We are probably used to sitting in a classroom and listening to somebody, but here all of you are online and it's a behavioral change, right? You would probably have your professor, throwing a chalk piece at you if you're sleeping, right? Now it's not possible, right? So if that's one behavioral change, right? On the other side, you can record the session. So if you do not understand something, you can always go back, rewind. This was never possible during my time. So if I slept through a class, that's it. I miss it, right? So there are both positive and negatives. So from a software development perspective, let's look at a few behavioral trends. The way software is developed has changed. Compare, for example, the way you build a building, that you could have built it in one way. Today we are building it in a different way. So you might have studied or you might have heard of something called a waterfall, wherein You do the foundation, you build the first floor, you build the second floor, you build the third floor, right? That's the old way of software development. That is what I learned. That is what I started my career with. But today there is a new trend which is called agile. Diwalige sweets ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ. So avaga you do multiple things at the same time. You don't do one after the other, right? On one side you will keep it on your gas, on the other side you will start cutting something else, and so on. You do things parallelly, and marta marta you will taste. You will take a spoon and you will taste, right? We used to never do that 20 years back. We used to never taste our software. We used to build software for 3 months, 6 months, even 1 year, and then we will taste, right? Then if the salt is more or the sugar is less, you can't do anything. So today, the way we do software development is more natural. It's more the way we do a lot of things in our real life. So that's called agile. You will learn it. You will be trained. If you're not already trained, you will be trained on it. But when you go to the industry, you will see people like me who are 20, 25 years of experience, who will find it more difficult than you to learn some of these agile trends. So it's important to be aware that there could be projects or there could be people who might still not be using these trends. Design thinking is another very interesting trend. It tries to bring more art into the engineering process. So if you go through some design thinking sessions, if some of you do art, you will realize that you'll have multiple paintbrush, you'll have multiple colors, and you might have some colors spilt around your work table and so on, right? But when it comes to an exam, you'll have a clean setup, right? You will have your writing pad, you will have your pens in a corner, you will have your geometry box aside. Everything is very structured. What is design thinking in simple words is coming together of these two words. That means you're trying to do something serious like an exam, but you are using concepts like art, which means things are a bit chaotic, things are a bit creative, right? So these two worlds are coming together. So when you enter the industry, for you it might be natural, but for a lot of people it may not be that natural because people come from a different world. Right. Shorter life cycles, very simple. Projects used to be running for 2 years, 3 years. I've been in projects which are for 2 years. The project life cycle is 2 years, but now it's much smaller projects. So instead of having long projects are broken down into smaller projects. Why is this relevant? During my time, once I get into a project, I'm fine for 2 years. I don't have to worry. But now projects get over in 3 months, 6 months. That means that you have to be on your feet. You have to be prepared for change, and probably 2 projects will be in different technologies. So if one project was in a cloud technology, other one could be data analytics. That means you have to learn faster to switch between those projects. So that will be that's a large trend under software development. Productivity is very straightforward. 10 years back, what we did with 10 people, today we want to do it with 2 people. And automation, you would have seen automated factories, not only abroad, even in India. If you a lot of the automobile manufacturing companies have automated robotic factories. Now this is coming to software. Things that we used to do 10, 20 years back are all automated today. And so today, if you're doing some work, you have to see, can this work be automated? What does it take for automation? If you can define it in rules, if you can define a flow chart, if you can say, if this, do that, if this, do that, if it can be conditional, it can be easily automated. And now with artificial intelligence, even some things which are situational that we thought can never be automated can also be automated. So you can look at it both ways. With automation, whatever you are doing might disappear. That's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is you could be the one automating. So you could go to the industry and you could automate something that somebody was doing it for the past 10 years. If you want jargon here, there is a jargon called RPA, Robotic Process Automation. RPA, that's the big fad in the last few years, and it will continue. We all think that technology is all about coding, right? Everybody learns coding. I did coding for many years. But today, again, due to automation, there are a lot of low code or even no code platforms. So somebody who doesn't know any programming language can actually build software. And this is a very common trend now. There are many low code or no code platforms. So it's important to be aware that what used to be done by coding few years back can be done without any code. Of course, complex software cannot be done, but a lot of normal day-to-day activities can be done using these platforms. And this is leading to hyper productivity because you can simply do things faster with lesser number of people. The third one, which I think you are most familiar, you might have seen your parents working from home, or you might have heard of people working from home, especially due to COVID. So the whole future of work is also changing. I used to work from home before, once in a month, but now I'm working from home every day. So remote work is an opportunity because there is a lot of new software required for remote work. For example, Zoom has become very popular in the last 3-4 months. There are other such software which are becoming popular, and more will come. Software exclusive for remote work. 5-10 years back, there was no opportunity because remote work was so less. So you might get an opportunity in a startup who might say, we do some software for remote work. So if you had asked 2 years back, everybody would have said, oh, there is no opportunity. It's a very small industry, remote work. But today it's a very big opportunity. So if you get such an opportunity, grab onto it. Gig economy, again, it's a bit of a jargon, but let's take it simple. Manele fuse hotaito andre, what do? You call an electrician, right? If the cot leg is moving, shaking, what do you call? Carpenter phone ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ, right? He will come, he will do the work, you will give him 100 rupees or 200 rupees and done, right? You call him that day in the morning, he comes that day, finishes the work, and that's it, right? You pay him 200 rupees, done. You do not have to pay him a salary. You do not have to pay him later. You do not have to even tell him when you will give him work next time, right? So we are all used to this kind of getting work done. Now this is coming to software. That means you do not have to be an employee of a company. You are a freelancer. The company will call you. They know your skills. This you have to do, and you will get money for whatever you deliver. You don't deliver, you don't get money. You deliver, you get your money. So this is becoming more and more popular. There is an upside to that also. Let's go back to our previous example. If the electrician is very busy and you pay and you call him, he'll say, "Illa, tumba busy idini, barakagala ivattu." Then you will tell him, "Oh, ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಪ್ಪ ಬಂದು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಹೋಗು ಅಂತ," right? So that is the upside. If there is a demand for your skill, then you can demand for more money, or you can decide if you want to do the work. For instance, the carpenter comes home, you don't treat him properly, right? You shout at him, let's say, right? So next time you call him, he'll say, "Illappa, nin jothe kelsa madak agala an barala," right? He has a choice because he has a lot of opportunities, right? So again, there is both sides to this. So that is called the gig economy, and there is a lot of technology built around gig economies. You can look at Upwork.com. There's one more called Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com. So these are platforms for gig economy. That means somebody can post a gig and somebody can respond to a gig. Gig is basically the work. I want to make special mention about cyber security. Cyber security is the biggest mother of all trends, if you want to call it. In the last few years, it is going to become much bigger trend in the next 10, 20, 30, 40, I don't know how many years. So if somebody asks me, give me one sure shot lottery ticket for a good career, in my opinion, it is cybersecurity. In Schneider Electric, my company, 3-4 years back, we are a big company. We have 140,000 employees all over the world. In Asia Pacific, we have 70,000 employees. 5 years back, we had 4 people for cybersecurity, only 4. And it seemed like a lot. Today, not exaggerating, we have 400 people focused on cybersecurity. That's how it has grown from 4 to 400, 100x in 5 years. Cybersecurity is that kind of an opportunity. Note your questions, we can come back to it. Next, we will go to the third topic, which is about competition, right? So title of the talks is how to stay competitive as a professional, right? Now, by virtue of what we have studied, we think competition is to compete with the guy sitting next to me, right? I have to get a rank, CET rank, right? In the class, I have to be ranked so on, right? So we are used to competing with somebody. The biggest challenge you have once you enter the career is to stop that and start competing with yourself. When you were competing until now in your school or college, you were competing with a small set of people. Schoolally 20 jana, 50 jana idru, ivaga 500 jana idare. But once you go into the world, it's infinite. You can never compete with the world because there's always somebody better. It is counterproductive to compete with others. So the best thing you can do is compete with yourself. And if any of you run marathon, it's a good example, right? It's become a big trend recently, right? You go ask a marathon runner. He doesn't care he comes first or second, right? What does he care about? His previous timing, right? I ran 41 kilometers in 2.5 hours. Now I want to run it in 2 hours, 25 minutes. I want to save 5 minutes. He's competing with himself. Keep that in mind. Compete with yourself. So with that in mind, I put together a simple 3-step process for how you can develop yourself. First, you dream. Then you learn. And then you perform and help others. And then you repeat the cycle. So let's look at dream is very generic, right? I mean, what do you mean dream? So let's look at what are some dreams, right? You can have your own dream. You probably already have your dream, right? So I will share 3 or 4 common dreams, and then you can have your own 4th, 5th, 6th dreams. The first thing to believe in dreams is possibilities are endless, right? Sometimes we get into this feeling everything is done. How better can things be? But the reality is things can always get better. There is no end to it. So there are possibilities that are endless. So simple example, you can dream to grow in the corporate ladder. Right? Here there are some examples of Indians who are CEOs of global companies. Now, of course, there are many role models in India, but I just wanted to highlight at the global level. You might know Google, you might know Microsoft, but there are a lot more. You may not know MasterCard, you may not know WeWork, and recently Arvind Krishna is the CEO of IBM. All their foundation comes from India. So they might speak an American accent, but if you go back to their value systems, if you read Satya Nadella's book, if you hear Sundar Pichai speak, you will hear about their humble background. So you can dream to grow in the corporate ladder, and this is probably the most common. But I also want to impress upon you that this is not the only dream. There can be other dreams. You can dream to build startups as an entrepreneur. Again, some examples, some popular startups in India, and a lot of them come with very humble background. Nikhil Kamath, uh, the very interesting stories. Is a very good storyteller. You can hear a lot about him. Another person I recommend is to look up. His name is Dr. Velumani, Velumani. He's the founder of Thyrocare. It's a diagnostic company. It's not IT company, so I didn't put. But he's an amazing storyteller. Look up in YouTube, and he comes from a very humble background. You can build startups. You can build it right now, today, or you can build it much later in your career. So you can switch dreams. You don't have to have one dream. You could start with the dream to grow up the corporate ladder and then go to a next stream, which could be building a startup, or you could build a startup right out of college, right? You could be an independent small business. This again may not be very obvious today, but there are people who have very successfully done it. You might face challenges from your family because it's not very traditional way of doing it, but it's an opportunity. I urge you to check out chantu.org. His name is Purna. Uh, Fascinating story. And this is not a recent story. He started chantu.org in 2004. And he started it when he was working. He was doing it part-time. So he was pursuing dream opportunity number 1 while he was pursuing opportunity number 3. And then in 2009, he quit his job and he started doing it full-time, right? So he completed his one dream and he started going to his other dream. Sorry, his story is very interesting. Go take a look. But it's an opportunity. There are plenty of people who are building such independent small companies, right? In one man companies. And as per Indian law today, you can even register a one man company. It's called OPC, one person company. You don't have to be a company of the big companies that we are used to. And I go to the fourth one, which is probably one of my favorite. You can always dream to build. We used to say I'm a mechanical engineer, so we used to go to the lab. We used to use that lathe machine, right? Lathe machine manek togambarakagala. I would have never bought a lathe machine in my life, right? But thanks to software, we all have a laptop. We have software. We can build whatever we want. And this is true not only now. It used to be true even during my time. And I took a screenshot. This I had posted it. I'll tell you where. But this I had posted it few weeks back. To give you an idea that you can always build stuff. You can call them side projects. You can give it a different name, but they're called side project. This is one of my friend, and he's now starting to build. So he's trying to build a newsletter called ravikiran.substack.com. That's the newsletter, right? And he has a full-time job. He's a product manager in US. He's trying to build something on the side. So you can always dream of something, doing something on the side. And people say, I don't have time. And I have this thing, the most important fact that we should all remember is there are 168 hours in a week. So when we say we don't have time, you'd think, we sleep 8 hours a day, we work 8, 9, 10 hours a day, we watch TV, Netflix, we still have time. The time is there, the 168 hours in a week. So take a piece of paper and write what you did. And I'm sure you will realize that you at least have 10 hours to work on your dreams, be it now or be it in future. Let's go to the next one, which is learn. This is my favorite. Why is it my favorite? ಸ್ಕೂಲಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ 10th ತನಕ ಓದ್ಬೇಡಪ್ಪ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಏನ್ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊ. 10th ಆಯ್ತು, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಪ್ರಿ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿ PU ಆಯ್ತು, ಅದು ಆಯ್ತು. 4 years ಮುಗಿಸ್ಬಿಡಪ್ಪ ಇಂಜಿನಿಯರಿಂಗ್, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಏನ್ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊ. ಸೊ ಈ ಸೈಡ್ ಓಕೆ, ಅದು ಆಯ್ತು, ಇಂಜಿನಿಯರಿಂಗ್ ಮುಗಿತು, ಕೆಲಸನೂ ಸಿಕ್ತು. ದೆನ್ ವಿ ಥಾಟ್ ಓಕೆ ಆಯ್ತು, ಇವಾಗ ನಾವು ಲೈಫ್ ಇಸ್ ಸೆಟ್, ನೋ ನೀಡ್ ಟು ಲರ್ನ್. ವಿಪ್ರೋ ಜಾಯಿನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಡೇ ದೇ ಸೆಡ್ ಓಕೆ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ 3 months ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗ್. ಓಕೆ ಫೈನ್, 3 months training ಆಯ್ತು. Then we went to work. Then we realized all that we learned was not sufficient. We still have to learn. So we said, okay, what's the, what is this learning? Then we realized that there is a difference. You can choose what you want to learn. No syllabus. You can learn whatever you want. You can learn nuclear science. You can learn Braille, if you, the language used for blind people, right? You can learn whatever you want. There's no syllabus, and that's freedom. To learn what you want is freedom. And second thing, you can stop learning, right? ಇವಾಗ ಮ್ಯೂಸಿಕ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ವಯಲಿನ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಬೈತಾರೆ, ಎಷ್ಟು ದುಡ್ಡು ಖರ್ಚು ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ, ಓದ ಬಿಟ್ಟ, ಆಲ್ ದಟ್ ಡ್ರಾಮಾ, ರೈಟ್? Now you stop, nobody knows. You can stop learning, that's it, and you can switch to something else, right? Nobody is watching over you. Third one, oh, my biggest, okay, no examination, frankly, right? So you might have heard of Rajnikant's dialogues, right? And one of them is my way is my own way, right? So create your own learning path, what works for you, online, offline, books, but feel that freedom. It is going to be different. On the job learning is going to be very different from what you've been through. So feel that freedom. Learn from others' mistakes, difficult, but then if you can find a way to learn from others' mistake, what happens? You start the race ahead of others. In sports, for example, you can look at videos of Sachin Tendulkar, Rahul Dravid, and you can learn from their mistakes, for example. And that is done, right? We know today video is used extremely deep in all the sporting teams, in cricket, in basketball, in all the world games. If we can apply that to our careers, we can go a long, long way. So if you meet people, ask them, don't hesitate to ask them. They may or may not answer, but don't hesitate to ask them. Ask them what mistakes they made, so you might get some very, very interesting learnings from them directly. Lastly, unlearn. Problem with to learn is also to unlearn, because if you already know cycling in a certain way, it's very hard. Look up, there is a special kind of cycle which has no brakes, and you have to pedal it the opposite way to stop the cycle. So you pedal front to move like we do. To slow the cycle, you have to pedal backward. I can't get the name of the cycle, but look up and imagine learning that. It's so difficult to learn. Actually, the difficulty is not in learning. The difficulty is unlearning what we have learned, right? So don't forget to unlearn, which is not a problem today. It is a problem for you probably little ahead. But if you miss that, you might, if you're not able to unlearn, you will miss a trend very easily. You will be left behind, right? And Nokia Apple is a classic example. You can go around and look up at it. It's a very interesting story of what happened. Now, learning, want to highlight just one thing. I learned machine learning from Professor Andrew Ng. He is a teacher in Stanford. I have not gone to Stanford, but but I could learn from somebody who is so good at it. And how could I do that? He is the founder of this platform called Coursera. You might have heard. You can go to Coursera. There are amazing courses, and point is not the courses. The point is the quality of the courses, the university they come from, the content that Professor Andrew's students experience in Stanford, which is limited to probably 30, 40, 100 students. now is open to practically anybody in the world. It doesn't matter you are in Africa or you are in India or anywhere in the world. Right? And similarly, India is no less. All the IITs are in this platform called NPTEL, nptel.ac.in. You will find tons of content. So if you might be studying mechanical engineering, if you are interested in, let's say, wind energy, well, you can go check out courses from IISc, which could be in a completely different area. I selected IT, but then there are many opportunities. So the content is out there. It's what you make out of it. So I will go to the last one, publish and help. So I said communicate, help. They're all different words. Publish your works. What is publishing your work? It is completing it and putting it out there. In the corporate world, it means keeping up to your commitments. It's very simple, but very important. For example, you will tell your manager, I will complete something on Friday. Right? Now, the definition of completion in the corporate world is also different. You never complete. Nothing is complete. It's always in progress. So when you say complete, you are simply talking of what is called a milestone, right? If you are Bangalore and the Mysore Odre, you can say 140 milestones, right? 1 kilometer is one milestone. So if you take a break, you will miss that milestone, right? But you will catch up, right? So if you're calling your friend in Bangalore, you will say, Ilidini, but I will reach by this time. How? Because you will catch up, right? So similarly, in the corporate world, keep up your commitments. Trust is absolutely important. And you build trust by keeping up commitment. Of course, the world demands results, right? You cannot just be learning and you have to perform. Result has to become what you have to understand that the secret is results don't have to be positive. Failing, if something doesn't work, that also is a learning, right? Because when you figure out this doesn't work, that means 50 other people do not have to do that experiment again, right? Today we learn Newton's laws of motion and so on, right? Newton didn't come up with that law in one shot, right? He went through so many experiments to get to that so that we don't have to repeat the experiments. So keep that mindset. We are used to believing that results have to be positive, not necessarily. And I think Amazon is a great example. You can find tons of stories where Amazon has managed to make failure a organization culture, not an individual culture, but an organization culture. Right? Lastly, help others in the technology world, especially. Share your learning, share your thoughts. This guy I found a few days back in Twitter. I hope it's true, but he says he's 16-year-old, and the kind of content he's put there is one of the best. If somebody says I don't have time to do Professor Andrew Ng's course that I showed in the previous slide, I have only half an hour, I will probably recommend you this guy's tweets. But it's amazing what the guy has done in 16. Now, you might say, oh, he's a smart guy, he's a brainy and all that. No, there are many people who are probably better than him. But what is he doing? He's writing, he's going there and publishing his thoughts, his learnings. He could be wrong, he doesn't mind, right? Somebody will correct him, he will learn. So keep that in mind. This will have long-term benefits. Helping others is not very obvious from a career perspective, but it will have long-term benefits. And when you say help others, you put it out there. It's, of course, you help people privately, but if you can help publicly, put it out there. And especially if you write, you are in the elite 5%. Again, there are long-term benefits to writing. Right? So there are multiple ways, but largely this talks about completing your work, trust, on time, and share and help others. So that is the three parts of the framework. Last point called multiply by zero. Now you all know the answer to this, right? And this can happen in life. Great things can be achieved, but then you have to avoid the zero multipliers. And that's health and financial health, ethics, and there are plenty of examples. For me, this was a revelation. 2009, the head of SAP India had a heart attack due to extreme stress. Mike Tyson, you all know, but then Mike Tyson also went bankrupt. He recovered after that, but he did go bankrupt. And I think you might have seen the movie Bad Boy Billionaires on Netflix, because all that previous slides we discussed, everything is useless if you multiply it with zero. Now, if until now, if you feel okay, I did not understand what Rajiv said, so I put this prescription. Imagine, think of it as a doctor's prescription. What do? You show it to the medical shop anywhere, whatever the doctor writes. So whatever he is given, 101, 111, we take, right? So consider it from that perspective. If there is few things that you can do today, right? Go to linkedin.com. You might already have a profile. If you don't have, create it. Add me to your network. You know my name, search my name, you know my company, you will find it. Right? After this, log in periodically. Put a reminder in your phone. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. LinkedIn. Log in. Do something. It doesn't matter what you do. Follow some companies. Or you can follow companies, so you will get an alert what is happening to the companies. So some of the companies that I listed before, or your own companies that you like. You can follow entrepreneurs. You can follow Bill Gates. You can follow Indian entrepreneurs. So do that regularly every week. Check out platforms like Coursera. Go and check. Set aside a few hours every week. Check Coursera again, Sunday 10 to 11, maybe Coursera. You don't have to do the courses, you can just go browse and so on also, right? And lastly, this is very interesting. I never read books in my life until I was 20, 25 years old. And 25 ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು 4 book ಓದಿದ್ರೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚು. But I found great joy in reading after that. Why? Because some books are good quality but entertaining. Before, it used to be either or, right? I used to think, what's the fun in reading a story? Theater movie nodavodalla. Why read a story? Those were the fiction books, right? Non-fiction, and it's boring, it's corporate. I was not interested at that time. And gradually, I found these books which are a combination of both. Sapiens, the wholly popular book, you might have heard. Nothing written in this book is new. People know it for a long time, but the way the author has written it has made it very, very popular. So keep on if you can find this entertaining, you will have a lot of, it will benefit you a lot. You will enjoy. At the same time, you will learn a lot also. This is prescription for today. I will end with prescription for tomorrow. Tomorrow as it means future. It could be next month. It could be next year, whenever, right? Write an article, write a post. The screenshots I put before are something that I have written. But do that. Post something. It can be one-liner. You can look at my LinkedIn profile. Some of them are just one-liners. Some of them are longer, right? You can even ask a question. There's nothing wrong in asking a question. One thing you will realize in your career is we've been used to writing answers, right? In exam, the biggest thing you will realize in the next 2-3 in your career is the biggest question is the biggest value is not the answer, it's the question. The guy who asked the question is the most beneficial, but it's something that you will learn with experience. Learn and share. If you LinkedIn, Medium, Twitter, if you want to go to the next level, create a course. There are platforms to create a course, and people are doing that. And my recommendation for your first income, whenever you receive, is to buy a Amazon Kindle. Kindle is an e-book reader. So this is the one-page summary of all that we spoke. I will not go through it. So we can probably pause here and happy to take any questions, your comments. I really enjoyed going through this.